ABC 13 Eyewitness News this morning.
The Cardinals' purported hack attack on the Astros could have some expensive consequences.
It is already a subject of a federal investigation. Even though top Cardinals officials probably weren't involved, they could pay a price. An expert weighs in on the legal consequences of the database breach. The FBI is investigating whether the St. Louis Cardinals employees hacked into a Houston Astros database. The database was known as Ground Control and reportedly contained the sum of all the Astros baseball knowledge. Now, there are indications the hack was aimed at Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow. He worked for the Cardinals before coming to Houston. He had no baseball experience before his job there, but was hired to transform their scouting to a more statistical-based approach. Many sources say he ruffled some feathers, though.
Well, on a personal level, I've always had a great relationship with Jeff, but you have to understand there was a little culture clash, which has been well written about when he came in here.
The baseball commissioner says it will decide what steps to take after the federal investigation is over. And there could be serious criminal consequences for the hackers. Civil lawsuits are the biggest worry for the Cardinals organization right now. This morning, we're joined by Joe Ahmad. He's a lawyer who specializes in trade secrets. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, first of all, let's just talk about, in the sports world, how unprecedented is a situation like this?
Well, it's never been heard of before. In the business world, which I typically operate in, we've been having these types of disputes for years, probably since the advent of computers. But in the sports world, this has never happened before. There's been no known cases of this. So this will be interesting to see what they do with it.
Is it going to be more difficult to prove something? You know, maybe they would have lost, maybe they would have won, whereas when you're talking about a business, you're talking about maybe you could show a loss of dollars. How do you prove what the impact was?
Well, that's very hard. I mean, even in the Moneyball issue back with the Oakland A's, a lot of people would dispute whether that was really the cause of it. We don't know. And so nobody really knows even here whether the purpose was to use it for competitive purposes or to embarrass Luhnow. Because, they were putting things out there that frankly were a little bit stale. And the thought has been that they were just trying to embarrass him by showing that they hacked into it.
Can you talk a little bit about criminally what the potential is and civilly what the potential is?
Well, sure. Criminally is, I think, where the action is, other than what the commissioner might do, because the DOJ and FBI are looking at this. And under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which is a criminal statute and a civil one, if you try to access a computer without authority, or you exceed the authority you have, then you can be criminally liable. It could be up to 5 years in prison. It can carry some very stiff penalties as well. And then, of course, the commissioner, who will wait until the federal government is done investigating, then can impose his own sanction. And there aren't a lot of limits in what he can do. He can fine up to $2 million to the club, $5 million or $500,000 for an individual. But other than that, he has wide discretion in terms of his punishment.
How could this overall affect each franchise and their fans, or is this all a little inside baseball, pun intended? How could it ultimately affect them?
Well, I think for the Cardinals right now, I mean, if you're up there, you're a Cardinals fan, this has got to be devastating. I mean, I think you've always had a lot of pride in your team, and you've always kind of looked at other teams, let's say maybe the Patriots as being a rogue element, and now this allegation has come to you. And frankly, the issue of, intentional espionage through a computer and hacking is probably far worse than anything we've seen in any sports issue or incident before. So I got to believe this has got to be scary if you're a Cardinals fan and you're in the Cardinals organization. Hopefully it's just a rogue element, a lower worker of the Cardinals, and it hasn't reached management. And then you can deal with it by terminating the employees that did this and enacting policies to try to prevent it from ever happening again.
All right, it's going to be an interesting case to watch unfold and difficult to really sort out from here.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate your time this morning. We could talk about it much longer, but we're out of time here. So thank you so much, Joe Ahmad, for joining us.